so this gender and with every role model, of course, there come some expectations with you, and this even goes so far to dress codes and how men and women dress. But let me be clear on this. I mean, this is not all bullshit. Indeed, it is not, because there are a lot of examples in history. For example, in ancient Greece, the ancient Greeks, they mocked Persians because Persians wore pants, and they some sort of thought that wearing pants is some sort of feminine. Or in Scotland, the Scottish kilt is some sort of some many people make joke about it, but it is some sort of, you would assume, not male attire. However, the ancient Greek civilization is actually a very interesting, as well as the Roman civilization, because if you watch closely the ancient Greek civilization, it is rather some sort of a male-dominated, homoerotic culture, because you could see that the male body, or the idealized form of the male body, is in the center. This is something you see in all sculptures, in all Greek sculptures, or how men are portrayed as strong, as some sort of, in a way, strong and youthful, muscular. You may have seen some of these that normal men, even old people have, despite the fact that they have an old chubby head, that they were put upon a youthful body. And as well as women, the way in ancient Greek women are being portrayed is rather having male features, having rugged faces. It's not always so, but or women are in a way considered childlike, and so on. And in ancient Greek, homosexuality was partially institutionalized. For example, in Sparta, the Spartan military, where homosexuality was even supported, and there were even some elite troops within the Greek military who would consist mainly of homosexuals, so that being a man and being straight was considered way more different than in ancient Greek, as well as in ancient Rome. There is an example from one Roman emperor who was scoffed because he was not a homosexual. This was I have again forgotten his name, but there was one incident in the Roman Empire where one emperor was hated for because he did not engage in homosexuality, and so on. So it was pretty much widespread. Homosexuality was very widespread within the ancient world, and then with Christianity, this then came everything different. I mean, when I think about gender roles, when I think about in general how a society could have been structured, then I always think about the animal kingdom, especially bees. Bees have as well as ants, but bees have a very complex society, and this is a female-dominated society. Bees and if you only watch some male in this society, for being there in bees, their own their sole purpose is to be the sperm donators and do nothing else. So in this society, male men play a second fiddle, and I always think to myself, this is actually how humanity could have ended as well, because because everyone always says, I mean, this is rather a man perception that you have to be strong to lead a society, or that strength alone would determine why men are in leading positions in a society. Well, this is not true. This is not true in that sense that humans always throughout evolution use tools to solve. Without tools, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and so on, they would have never succeeded. So they needed to make spears or to kiss spears and what have you to kill mammoths and all these wild animals. They had to master fire to protect themselves. So human history is not the history about physical strength. It is rather his history of brain power to find solutions, and and this does not exclude women, not at all. For example, if you want, you could some sort of make a play in your head that women could have been on top of the society as well, despite the fact that women bear children. Of course, like I said, I mean, like in the bee world or among the bees, there's of course one queen who has only one purpose, and this is to bearing children. And now imagine what would have happened if a society would have built upon that. However, you could then say, I mean, of course, this is only a play and this is only some sort of thought experiment, but you could say, yeah, true, women bear children, but this means that women know how to raise children, and this would then mean women should raise children and and people, and since women know how to raise children, presumably know how to raise children, and people, they know what they would need to, and when they know what these people need to, they could as well as go into politics, and so taking charge of the society, because women, and I will talk about this shortly, are way more important than men when it comes to reproduction of a society. And even though we always compare this to this ancient thinking, the separation between the reproduction, or we somehow the entire discussion of women and of equality of gender is confined to this one point, and this is that women bear children. This is a fact. Nevertheless, this is a fact, and you can't change it. And I do not think that you should change it. And some men somehow use this as justification that women would then should be confined to a subordinated role. But if you go through this thought experiment, then you could say, why did women not become politicians then? I mean, if you think that women know how to raise children, women are close to children. This means women are social. This means women know or would know. So conditional, we have to use the conditional. Women would know what's best for people, and therefore women would know how to make rules and laws for society. Women would know best how to lead a society, and that's why women should all become politicians. And because women are very important for the reproduction of the society, so only men should be sent into war, because because if a woman dies, this is way more harmful than if a man dies. This is something we see in the in bees, in the animal kingdom among bees. So if male or the man are only sperm donators, uh, sperm donors, this is their sole purpose in life to and whereas women, they have the womb and they are way more important, and men are somehow expendable. And this is something you can even see among the bees when it's winter, and if there is no more space in the hive, then those male bees, they would thrown out of the hive in the bitter cold. So if there is no purpose or use for them anymore, then they are expendable, and this is happening. This is what you can witness among the bees. So if there is no use for them anymore, they get rid of them, and you could somehow indeed apply this to human society as well, because man in the end are nothing else than sperm donors. But what I wanna personally push back the thought is that the biological sex, so this means your physical, your how your brain works, the hormones which goes through your bodies, and this has nothing and are partially to do with how you, whether you have a womb or not, that this would not be determine your thinking. I mean, this is something you have to push back, especially if you think about transsexual approaches, so that you have to have, so, or your conscience has to have a foundation in reality. This is not only philosophical. This is as well as true. So this means your conscience, your approach to the world has to have a foundation in reality. This means your biological sex whatsoever, or else it is just mere imagination. And one great example, which I think partially fits here, is the case of Rachel Dolezal. Dolezal. I mean, those who not know who is that Rachel Dolezal was a white woman who dressed up like an African American and then would present herself as an African American, and this was a huge scandal within the left, so that the left itself really butchered her verbally, butchered her in the media, man, that she took advantage of, that she had a lot of privileges and whatsoever. And this was very interesting. I mean, the reason why I bring this up, because the discussion about Rachel Dolezal was very important, or in a way interesting, because it showed that many within the left actually really admitted that you have to have a foundation in reality, that you cannot imagine to be black if you are not, that it is very important to have these experiences, or you need to have these experiences of blackness in order to really call yourself black. And I think this was a very interesting discussion, and this is something you can apply to the biological sex as well. You have to have these experiences. I mean, these experiences can of course be subconscious or whatever, but they have to be there, because you have hormones in your body, you have estrogen in your body, you have testosterone in your body, and this has a certain effect on you, no matter what it is. I mean, it is true that your social role model, that this is constructed. And if you only see in the ancient world, yeah, indeed